horseshoe here. There's the sound of the fastest sprinters in the state going at it. Terry Miller of Buckley already set a state record today, and she is going to rattle with us.
This way, please.
Leslie, four-time Olympic gold medalist, three-time WNBA MVP, two-time WNBA champion, and a Hall of Famer. Anthony Lunsford, I heard about your book that sold out multiple times on Amazon. And this is going to be interesting. It's called Transgender Hoop. I heard you wrote a story about fictional novel about 9 boys who decided to play basketball as girls in the girls' league, which is hilarious. It's a story that clearly people are looking forward to reading, getting the books, and I hear it's coming on Netflix soon too. So wishing you the best of luck. Can't wait.
Hey Anthony, I heard about your fictional novel where 9 boys choose to play as girls in a girls' league. And when I first read the title, Transgender Hoops Identify as Female, I gotta be honest, I was like, oh, I hope he attacked this sensitive subject with the right amount of respect. And absolutely, by all accounts, you've done that. So kudos to you for approaching this subject with your sense of humor and with a storyline that I think a lot of people can see themselves either rooting for the people in it or at least understanding this topic more by seeing it through your lens and these different characters. So congrats to you, getting amazing reviews on Amazon, and rightfully so for a hilarious story and a gut check ending as well. So Anthony, keep up the great work. It's been sold out multi-times on Amazon, I'm seeing, and Netflix soon after that. So keep doing great work and just inspiring us all. Thank you, Anthony.
Sorbo here, and I heard about your new book about 9 boys deciding to play basketball as girls in the girls' league. And I got to tell you, Anthony, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. I mean, that's happening a lot right now, but it's not fair to girls. Don't you think it's not fair to girls? It's called Transgender Hoops. Identifies female. Humor story that's a thought provoker. I got to check that out. Sold out multi-times on Amazon. Really? Very cool. I'm going to go on Amazon. I'm going to check out and read the book. That would make an interesting movie. Go to Netflix. That actually sounds like something right up their alley. So definitely go to Netflix. Check out some of my movies coming out. I got 3 new movies coming out this year, but now they got pushed because of this virus thing. Eventually, we got to get back to work, though, right? But check out Let There Be Light. That's streaming on Amazon right now. That was in theaters last year. And I've got, since Hercules and Andromeda, I've shot over 60 movies. So I've been busy, bud. I've been busy. Anyway, God bless you, Anthony. Have a good one. Take care. Be healthy. Be safe. And stay out of trouble.
Hey, Anthony. It's Ryan Grant, former Green Bay Packer running back. Just wanted to touch base, say hello. I heard you're doing some really big things. And I'm looking forward to getting a chance to check out your new fictional novel called Transgender Hoops. It's about 9 boys deciding to play basketball as girls in a girls' league. And I think that's an interesting conversation, interesting topic, absolutely, especially with the landscape and space we're in now with children actually doing this and transitioning and making that jump and switching sides. So I think it's will probably bring about some light to the topic, inform some people on what's going on, how it's affecting both sides. At the same time, we all have our opinions, but to be informed is the most important thing, man. I'm looking forward to checking it out. Have a good day, man. Yeah, so I've seen that it's sold out multiple times on Amazon. That's great, man. Congratulations. Maybe on Netflix soon. Who knows? But shoot, I'm looking forward to it. But have a good day, man. Stay safe. Stay home. Right now, we're still in this lockdown, and stay strong, brother.
What's going on, man? This is your guy, Ryan Hollins, senior NBA veteran, ESPN analyst, and I'm intrigued, man. I heard your new fictional novel about 9 boys deciding to play basketball as girls in a girls' league. That's got to be quite a story to tell. It's called Transgender Hoops, man. That's an intriguing one. Good stuff, brother. A hilarious story with a gut check ending. Sold out multiple times on Amazon. Check us out on Netflix soon. But guys, you can already see the storylines going on, man. They're probably going undefeated in the season. You guys got to figure it out, and then maybe you take it a loss, man. So you're figuring different roles out. So wow, Great story, man. Make sure y'all check it out soon, man. Shout out my guy, Anthony
This
Lunsford.
is Lauren Chen here for Anthony Lunsford. I heard about your new fictional novel putting a little bit of common sense back into the idea of men competing in women's sports. The book is called Transgender Hoops, Identify as Female. Go please read the reviews on Amazon. This is such a strange issue that we're even talking about it, but no, women's sports is not co-ed, so I'm glad there's a new book out that's kind of touching upon this issue, which seems to be everywhere on the news now.
We're also wondering how you view the whole trans athlete issue, because that's something that we've seen come up a lot in the news, different events. Now it's actually come to the point where different governing bodies for sports events and even potentially U.S. Congress, they're planning on taking action to do something. How do you view that? Because that's not the easiest thing to talk about if you want to, be true to biology, but also, be fair and compassionate toward people who are trans. So how do you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have trouble navigating, like you said, the compassion and the biological reality aspect.
Yeah.
I think in terms of sports, and when you are, first of all, I'm not an athletic person. I don't know a lot about sports. So when it comes to rules and regulations, don't ask me. However, I will say it doesn't take someone who's extremely knowledgeable about sports and athleticism to know that, like, if you transition at 30 and then you join a football team, like a powder puff football team, you know what I mean? It's not going to be the same as if you're a biological woman. I think that in terms of, for example, say a trans woman is joining a female-only team, I think one of the best things to do is to look at how early that person transitioned, because even though I have made it so clear in the past, I think we talked about it last time, that I don't support children transitioning. That doesn't change the fact that they do. And so I think if you transition before puberty, you're going to develop completely as a normal female. And so I think that's fine. But I think any later than that, I think that, and it's a hard thing to say, I think that possibly the best answer is having separate leagues for trans people. I know that that's not always the most popular opinion because you get the whole like separate but not equal thing. But in reality, if you're talking about physicality, there isn't really equality. So I kind of throw the equality thing out the window, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I've heard people on Twitter suggest the same thing, and that's kind of where I lean towards, because on the one hand, you don't want to say trans athletes, I'm sorry, you just can't compete ever, because, I mean, that sucks. But on the other, especially when you have, it's maybe not as big of a deal when you're talking about female to male athletes, but definitely when it's male to female.
So I have to start off this whole trans sports thing with some transparency about where I am coming from, which is the perspective of not knowing anything about sports. I had never been into sports. I'm the kind of person that in social settings, when sports references are made, they go right over my tranny head. I have no clue. So that had to be said, I feel like, for me to do this video. So probably the most famous transgender athlete on a high level is Fallon Fox from the MMA. Just learned that acronym. So feast your eyes on this video of Fallon Fox taking her opponent down in 39 seconds.
These girls are getting right into it. Fox to the knees, and that's it. Fallon Fox.
It was also reported in a fight after that she broke her opponent's skull. Broke the skull. This happened in the first round, in the first 2 minutes. She literally walked on stage, broke her skull, and won. And I'm sorry, but you'd have to be a complete idiot to think that Fallon Fox does not have at least somewhat, like maybe you don't want to go all the way, but at least somewhat of a biological advantage over her opponent. Hormones or not, surgeries or not, Fallon Fox actually transitioned late into her adulthood, which means she went through an entire male puberty, developed entirely male, and then transitioned. So when it comes to things like bone structure, which are irreversible in transition, we're talking wrist size, hand size, finger size, elbow size, joint size. They're all thicker than her biological female opponents. Now, obviously, when it comes to fighting, the size of those things are very, very important to fighting and hitting someone. I like to think my hands aren't that big, but this isn't about me. Okay. And this issue of trans people in sports is not secluded to just professional sports. It is also affecting high schools. Check out this mini documentary from a high school in Connecticut.
A transgender high school athlete who is biologically a male took first place in both the 100 and 200 meter dash at Connecticut's Girls Track and Field State Championships.
When I'm at the start of the race, when I'm lining up and getting into my blocks, everyone already knows the outcome. Those two athletes are going to come 1 and 2, and everyone knows it. No one thinks it's fair. because we all know that males are physically stronger than females and they compete at a higher level.
For, like she said, everyone to go into it already knowing the outcome, to me is a problem. In my opinion, and this is me setting aside every bit of bias that I may or may not have as a trans woman myself, it seems to me that the titles that these young girls are working so hard for are being taken, and it's really not fair. So here is a
So tell us a little bit, just a little bit, no spoilers too many here, about the book.
Okay. Well, it's so hard to avoid getting into it, but here's how it goes. The story's about 9 guys, high school boys, that are basically get put in a bad situation by abusive coaches. And I know you've got a kid that plays hockey, so if you've either had at some point in your life a bad coach or you've seen them in action on other teams, and us as parents, it's so hurtful and it makes you so angry. So you get to see what happens, and that's kind of what sparks this whole story. It was written really as a fictional sports novel to get your interest into it, and that's what happens in the story. That's what sparks it. These poor boys have no chance of going to college. They had these great college dreams of playing sports and earning a scholarship. Without that scholarship, they have no chance of going to college. So in rolls into the story two gentlemen that kind of transform and changed these young men's lives, not in a good way for them, but not in a good way for the rest of the world. And what happens is they find a loophole in the system. And we all know what that loophole is. It's that blind political correctness that enables you to, in 1 second, be able to say, I choose to identify as a female, and now I'm allowed to play in women's sports. I'm allowed to play against girls the next day without taking any hormones, without doing any kind of surgeries, without seeing anyone. You just selectively do it. And that's what sparks the story. These 9 boys have an event that pulls them together from 4 different high schools here in Cincinnati. I won't mess that up. You got to read it to get it. But and they move on and they have great success, and they use, as bad as it is, they end up using that political correctness and that identifying as female as like a force field for them. They're untouchable because everybody knows that the PC sledgehammer will come down on you hard if you buck up against them. So they take advantage of that. Story goes on, and you're really going to have to read it. But the end of the story is that point to where realization hits, and that gut check. And it'll be that gut check for every reader that reads the book about, what have I done? Basically, in the process of doing this to help 9 boys, I've burned Title IX to the ground. I've destroyed women's sports. That's over. So that's kind of, I guess, the little spoiler alert part. That's kind of short version.
Reality.
Yeah.
Reality. We have almost half the states now letting children do this, identify as